The ring hit the floor. For 3 seconds, no one breathed. The CEO's face went white. Not angry, devastated. Like Lily had just shattered the only thing in the world he had left to lose. She didn't know what she'd done wrong, but as her trembling fingers reached for the gold band, she realized this wasn't just jewelry. This was his last piece of her. Lily Carter was the kind of person people forgot was in the room. 25, soft-spoken, invisible. For 2 years at Sterling and Ray's jewelry workshop, she'd polished stones no one else wanted to touch, fixed mistakes no one else would claim, and stayed silent when credit went to people who didn't deserve it. That's what shy girls do. They survive by not being seen. Ava Collins, the production director, made sure of it. Sharp comments. Impossible tasks. The unspoken rule, you're lucky to be here. Don't forget it. And Cole Ramirez, the CEO, never came to the workshop floor. Not anymore. Not since the accident 3 years ago that took the woman he loved 2 weeks before their wedding. People said he used to smile, used to laugh, used to be alive. Now he was just a man carrying a ghost. That morning they'd pulled an old ring from storage. Forgotten, tarnished, worthless according to the inventory log. But when Lily held it under the lamp, she saw something no one else could see. A mark, faint, almost invisible, hidden beneath years of neglect. It wasn't damage. It was a message. The sensory detail hit her like a memory. The weight of the metal, the warmth against her palm, the delicate ridge her mother had taught her to recognize. An ancient engraving technique most people didn't even know existed anymore. Someone had carved this with love, with precision, with hands that understood metal the way poets understand words. Lily's chest tightened. Her mother used to say every piece of jewelry tells a story, but only the patient ones can hear it. You only need to polish it. Ava's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. Don't get curious. Lily flinched, nodded, but her fingers stayed gentle on the ring. Across the room, Henry Shaw, a 70-year-old retired engraver with kind eyes, whispered just loud enough for her to hear. That engraving. Not everyone can see it. He knew. Somehow he knew. That's when the air changed. Cole Ramirez appeared in the doorway. Silent, unannounced. People straightened. Conversations died. He never came down here anymore. His eyes swept the workshop and stopped. On Lily's hands, on the ring between her fingers, and something in his face broke. Who authorized that piece to be handled? His voice was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before everything falls apart. Ava stepped forward fast. Just old inventory, Mr. Ramirez? Nothing important? Nothing important, Cole's voice cracked. His eyes locked on Lily's, red at the edges, shaking. Do you have any idea what that is? Lily opened her mouth. No words came. Cole crossed the room in 4 strides, stopped inches away, stared at the ring like it was the only thing left in the world that still hurt him. This ring. His voice dropped to a whisper. No one touches this. Ever. Lily's heart hammered. She'd only been trying to do her job, but now looking into his eyes, she understood. This wasn't jewelry. This was the last thing she made him. The woman he lost. The life he'd never get back. And Lily, invisible, insignificant Lily, had just opened the wound he'd spent 3 years trying to close. Henry's words echoed in her head. Not everyone can see it, but Cole could, and now so could she. The engraving wasn't finished. It was a letter. Just one letter hidden beneath the tarnish. The letter A, Alicia. And suddenly Lily realized someone had tried to erase it. Someone in this room. Someone standing right here. someone who didn't want Cole to ever see what his fiancée had carved for him before she died. Why does this ring terrify the CEO and who tried to destroy the only message his lost love left behind? The workshop returned to its rhythm after Cole left, but the air felt different. Lily kept her head down, but her mind wouldn't let go of the way he'd looked at her, not with anger, but with something closer to recognition. Like she'd opened a door he thought he'd locked forever. Ava wasted no time reasserting control. That afternoon, she reassigned Lily only the tasks nobody wanted, grinding down rough stones, cataloging defective inventory, scrubbing oxide stains from old tools. It was punishment disguised as routine. Lily didn't argue. She never did. This shy girl had learned long ago that speaking up only made things worse. Mira, one of the friendlier co-workers, approached Lily during the lunch break. "You okay? Ava's been harder on you than usual." Lily forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just trying to stay focused." "That ring you were working on this morning," Mira said, lowering her voice. "I heard Jordan mention it's been in storage for 3 years. Nobody's been allowed to touch it until now." She paused. "Rumor is it belonged to someone the CEO loved, someone who died." Lily's hands stilled around her sandwich. "Did you know her?" "No. It was before my time. But people say he's never been the same since." Mira glanced toward the executive offices. "He used to smile, you know. Used to come down here and joke with the artisans. Now he just exists." The words settled heavy in Lily's chest. She thought about the way Cole had looked at the ring like it was both treasure and wound. But late that evening, when most of the staff had gone home, Henry found her in the back corner of the workshop, carefully repairing a cracked setting that Ava had damaged weeks ago and blamed on a supplier. "You don't have to save her reputation, you know," Henry said gently, setting down 2 cups of tea. Lily smiled, tired. "It's easier than making waves." Henry studied her for a long moment. "The way you hold that tool, it's exactly like your mother. She was the best engraver this place ever had. Her work on jewelry was nothing short of inspirational." Lily's hands stilled. She hadn't heard anyone speak about her mother in years, not here, not anywhere that mattered. "You knew her." "I worked beside her for 15 years. Henry said, his voice warm with memory. "She taught me patience, precision, how to see what others missed. Every ring she polished carried her signature, a sensory experience you could feel even before you saw it." He paused. "She'd be proud of you, Lily, even if you don't believe it yet." Tears prickled at the corners of Lily's eyes, but she blinked them away. Pride felt too big for someone like her. What she didn't know was that Cole Ramirez stood on the second-floor balcony looking down into the workshop. He'd come back to retrieve a file he'd forgotten, but now he stood frozen watching Lily adjust an engraving line with delicate, almost reverent precision. His breath caught. The way she held the ring, the angle of her wrist, the gentleness in her touch. It was exactly the way Alicia used to work. Alicia, his fiancée. The woman who died 3 years ago in a car accident 2 weeks before their wedding, leaving behind a half-finished piece of jewelry and a grief so profound, Cole had stopped believing in anything soft. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he could hear Alicia's laugh echoing through the workshop, bright and unguarded, the way it used to fill every empty space. She'd worked late most nights, insisting the metal spoke to her when the world went quiet. He'd bring her coffee and watch her hands dance across gold and silver, creating beauty from raw elements. The night she died, she'd called him from the workshop. "I finished it," she'd said, her voice breathless with excitement. "The ring. Our ring. I'm bringing it home tonight. You're going to love what I carved inside. But she never made it home. And the ring, the one she'd poured her soul into, had arrived at his office 3 days later in an evidence bag barely recognizable after the accident. He'd locked it away, unable to look at it, unable to let it go. Until now. He turned away before the memory could pull him under. Over the next few days, something shifted. Cole began appearing in the workshop more often, never for long, never with explanation. He'd pause near Lily's station, watching her hands move across the metal and then leave without a word. Ava noticed, and Ava did not like being outshone. One morning, she cornered Lily in the storage room. The CEO has better things to do than watch a shy girl fumble through grunt work. Don't get ideas. Lily's stomach twisted. You're not special, Lily. You're here because we need extra hands. That's all. Ava's smile was sharp. Stay in your lane. But that same afternoon, Cole walked into the workshop and approached Lily directly. The room went silent. Who taught you that engraving technique? He asked, his voice low, careful. Lily's heart raced. My mother, before she passed. Cole's expression softened just slightly, but enough that Lily saw it. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked like a man instead of a monument. She must have been extraordinary, he said quietly. And then he walked away, leaving Lily standing there with her pulse in her throat and a strange, fragile hope blooming in her chest. From across the room, Ava's eyes darkened. That night, Ava stayed late. The board had been pressuring her for weeks about declining quality metrics, and she was running out of excuses. The company's reputation hinged on flawless craftsmanship, and several pieces, including that old ring, had been flagged as inconsistent with the new collection standards. She'd assumed the ring was just defective old stock, its antique engraving too crude for modern tastes. So she'd done what seemed logical. She repolished it, smoothing out the flaws, modernizing the surface to make it presentable. It was a decision born of panic, not malice. But panic, she was learning, could be just as destructive. Now, watching Cole's attention turn toward Lily, Ava felt the ground shifting beneath her. If he discovered what she'd done, if he realized she'd altered something precious, she wouldn't just lose her position. She'd lose everything. So she made another decision. She would blame Lily first. The ring holds a secret, but someone has already tried to erase it. The morning Cole asked to see the ring again, the workshop fell silent. He stood at the center of the room, the small gold band resting in his palm under the bright overhead lights. His jaw tightened, his breathing slowed, and when he finally spoke, his voice was ice. This isn't the original. Lily's stomach dropped. Ava stepped forward immediately, her face carefully composed. I'm sorry, Mr. Ramirez. I should have reported this sooner. She turned toward Lily, her expression pained, almost apologetic. Lily was handling the ring unsupervised. I didn't realize she'd altered it. I didn't. Lily's voice cracked. I would never. You were the last person to touch it, Ava said softly, as if the words hurt her to say. I saw you examining the jewelry closely. I thought you were just being thorough, but... Cole's gaze landed on Lily, and the warmth she'd glimpsed days ago was gone. In its place was something cold, something final. In this company, trust is worth more than gold, he said quietly. Today I can't trust you. Lily felt the floor tilt beneath her. You're suspended, effective immediately. The words hit like a physical blow. This shy girl tried to speak, tried to explain, but her throat closed. Around her, she could feel the other artisans watching, some with sympathy, others with the careful neutrality of people who knew better than to take sides. Jordan, the workshop manager, looked troubled, but said nothing. She nodded once, gathered her tools with shaking hands, and walked out of the workshop without looking back. Behind her, Ava exhaled in relief. Lily sat on a bench outside the building, her mother's pendant cold against her chest. The engraving on it read, "Be brave when it matters." But bravery felt impossible when the world had already decided you were guilty. The autumn wind bit at her skin, and she pulled her jacket tighter. She thought about calling someone a friend maybe, or her aunt who lived 2 states away. But what would she say? That she'd been fired for something she didn't do. That once again she'd been too quiet, too passive, too afraid to defend herself when it mattered most. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mira. "I don't believe Ava. None of us do. We're here if you need anything." The kindness made Lily's eyes sting, but it didn't change the fact that she had no proof, no voice, no way to save herself from this. Henry found her there an hour later. He sat beside her without a word, just letting the silence settle. Finally, he spoke. "You didn't alter that ring." "It doesn't matter what I did or didn't do," Lily whispered. "No one will believe me." "I will." Henry's voice was firm. "And I think I know how to save your reputation and the truth." They returned to the workshop after hours. Henry, as the final quality inspector, had access to the security footage from the storage room. It took nearly an hour of searching, but they found it Ava entering the restricted area late at night, removing the ring, working on it under a polishing lamp, and returning it to inventory. The timestamp matched perfectly. Lily stared at the screen, her chest tight. She lied. She was scared, Henry said. "Fear makes people do terrible things. I know, because I've been there." He turned to her, his expression heavy with old regret. "Years ago, I stayed silent while a colleague's design was stolen. I was afraid of my boss, afraid of losing my job. I told myself it wasn't my fight." He paused. "I've regretted it every day since." Lily touched the pendant at her throat, the inspirational message her mother had left her. "Don't be like me, Lily," Henry said gently. "If you stay quiet, the wrong people win." She closed her eyes, her mother's voice echoing in her memory, "Be brave when it matters." When she opened them again, her hands had stopped shaking. "I'll stand up." The next morning, Lily walked into the executive boardroom unannounced. Cole was mid-presentation, showing the board his plans for a memorial collection, honoring traditional craftsmanship. Ava stood beside him, polished and confident. When the door opened, every head turned. "You're not authorized to be here," Ava said sharply. "I have evidence," Lily said, her voice steady. She held up a tablet. Jordan, the workshop manager, frowned. "What kind of evidence?" Lily pressed play. The footage filled the screen, Ava entering the storage room, removing the ring, altering the jewelry with modern polishing tools, and returning it. The room went silent. Ava's face drained of color. That's not what it looks like." "The timestamp is clear," Jordan said quietly. "That's the night before Mr. Ramirez requested the ring." Cole's gaze shifted from the screen to Ava. His expression was unreadable, but his voice cut like glass. "You altered a piece of personal inventory, and then you blamed someone else." "I thought it was defective." Ava's voice broke. "The board was pressuring me, and I thought if I made it look more modern." "You thought wrong." Cole turned to Lily. His face softened just slightly. "Why did you fight for this?" Lily's throat tightened. "Because the original engraving wasn't a flaw. It was made with an ancient technique, one my mother taught me. To most people it looks like a scratch, but it's not." She hesitated. "It's the beginning of a letter. The letter A." Cole froze. The room seemed to stop breathing. You, you could see that? Yes. Lily's voice was gentle. Someone who loved you made that mark, and they meant for you to keep it. Cole's hand trembled as he took the ring from his pocket. His eyes filled, and for the first time in 3 years, he let himself remember Alicia's laugh. Her hands shaping metal with impossible care, the way she'd whispered his name like a promise. She was going to give this to me, he said, his voice breaking. The day she died. Lily stepped closer. Then she left you something no one else could take away. A memory carved in metal. And I can restore it if you'll let me. The truth has surfaced, but the real healing has only just begun. Ava was reassigned to a distant branch the following week, a smaller operation in the Midwest, where she would work directly under a team of veteran engravers who valued humility over ambition. It wasn't vindictive, it was necessary. And in time, she would learn what Lily already knew, that talent without integrity is just noise. But the real transformation happened quietly in the workshop over the course of 3 months. Cole asked Lily to restore the ring not as an employee under suspension, but as a master artisan entrusted with something sacred. He didn't hover. He didn't micromanage. He simply gave her space-time and the tools she needed. Lily worked slowly, carefully, using the ancient technique her mother had passed down. The sensory experience was overwhelming: the smell of heated metal, the vibration of the engraving tool against her palm, the way each stroke required both strength and surrender. She studied the faint impressions left in the gold, the ghost of a letter that had been worn down by time and fear and careless hands. And piece by piece, stroke by stroke, she brought it back. Some days Cole would sit quietly in the corner of the workshop, just watching. Not critiquing, not rushing, just being present. You don't have to stay, Lily said one afternoon, not looking up from her work. I know, Cole replied, but I want to, if that's okay. She glanced at him, seeing not the CEO, but the man beneath someone trying to find his way back to hope. It's okay. They fell into a comfortable rhythm. Sometimes they talked about the metal, about techniques, about small things that didn't matter, and big things that did. Other times they simply existed in the same space, two people learning to trust again. The letter A emerged like a sunrise, delicate, intentional, unmistakably made by someone who understood both metal and love. When she finished, she found Cole in his office. She didn't knock. She simply walked in and placed the polished ring on his desk. He stared at it for a long time. Then he picked it up, holding it to the light, and his breath caught. It's exactly as she made it, he whispered. She wanted you to remember her, Lily said softly. Not the loss, the love. Cole looked up, his eyes red but clear. I owe you more than an apology. You don't owe me anything. I do. He stood, crossing the space between them. I let my grief make me blind. I saw you as a threat because you reminded me of what I'd lost. But you didn't take anything from me, Lily. You gave something back. You helped save me from drowning in the past. She smiled, small but real. Then we're even. He shook his head. Not even close. 3 months later, Sterling and Ray launched the Second Light collection, a line of handcrafted jewelry that honored traditional engraving techniques. Lily was introduced as the lead designer, her mother's name engraved on the first piece. The launch event was intimate, attended by artisans, collectors, and a few carefully chosen press members. Lily stood beside Cole as he addressed the room, and for the first time in her life, this shy girl didn't feel invisible. This collection exists because one person had the courage to see what others missed, Cole said, his voice steady. Lily Carter didn't just restore a ring. She restored a belief I thought I'd lost, that the past isn't something to erase. It's something inspirational, something that teaches us how to move forward. The applause was warm, genuine. But what mattered most to Lily wasn't the recognition. It was the way Cole looked at her afterward, his expression open and unguarded. "What you did," he said quietly, "didn't just save a memory. You saved me." In the weeks that followed, Cole established a scholarship fund in Lily's mother's name, dedicated to young artisans learning traditional engraving techniques. The first recipient was a 19-year-old girl from Ohio, whose hands shook the first time she held an engraving tool, but whose eyes burned with the same quiet determination Lily recognized in herself. Henry attended the ceremony, his face lined with pride. Afterward, he found Lily in the workshop and handed her a small wooden box. Inside were her mother's original engraving tools, worn loved and still sharp. "She would have wanted you to have these," Henry said. "It's your turn to carry this." Lily held the tools, carefully feeling the weight of legacy and love. "I won't let her down." "You already haven't." The old ring with its restored letter A engraved in the ancient technique only Lily's mother had mastered was placed in a glass case in the company's main hall. It wasn't for sale. It was a reminder that some things are worth fighting for, that silent gifts don't disappear, they simply wait for the right hands to bring them back into the light. That grief, when met with courage and kindness, can transform into something beautiful. And that sometimes the people we think are invisible are the ones who see us most clearly. But the story isn't over, because healing is never just one person's journey. 6 months after the second light launch, Sterling and Ray had transformed. The workshop felt different, not louder, but more alive. Artisans who'd once worked in silence now shared techniques openly. Ava's replacement, a woman named Serena, led with curiosity instead of control. And Lily, who had spent years trying to stay small, now walked through the halls with her shoulders back. But the most unexpected change was in Cole. He smiled more, laughed occasionally, started coming down to the workshop not to supervise but to learn. He'd pull up a stool beside Lily and watch her hands move across the metal, asking questions like a student instead of a CEO. "Why do you angle the tool that way?" he asked one afternoon as she polished a new piece for the collection. "Because the metal remembers pressure," Lily said, her voice steady and sure. "If you force it, it fractures. But if you guide it gently, it holds the mark forever." Cole watched her for a long moment. "You're talking about more than engraving, aren't you?" She smiled. "Maybe." He didn't look away. "You've taught me that." The air between them shifted, still professional, still respectful, but threaded with something warmer. Something neither of them was ready to name yet, but both of them felt. One evening after the workshop had emptied, Cole found Lily in the archive room. She was cataloging old designs, her mother's tools laid out beside her, like artifacts in a museum. The sensory richness of the space-old leather metal polish paper, aged to gold, wrapped around them both. "Can I ask you something?" Cole said. "Of course." "Why did you stay after everything Ava did? After I didn't believe you? You could have walked away." Lily set down the tool she'd been holding. "Because walking away would have meant letting fear win. And my mother didn't teach me to run from things that matter. She taught me that every ring we create, every piece of jewelry we polish, carries a piece of our soul. I wasn't ready to abandon mine." Cole's chest tightened. "Your mother sounds like she was extraordinary." "She was." Lily's voice softened. "But so was Alicia. Wasn't she?" He nodded, the grief in his expression no longer sharp, but tender. "She was brilliant, stubborn. She used to stay up all night working on a single piece because she said the metal wasn't ready yet." He smiled, fragile but real. "She would have liked you. I wish I could have met her." "In a way you did." Cole gestured to the restored ring now kept in his office instead of a display case. You understood what she was trying to say. That's more than I ever could. Lily met his gaze. She wasn't trying to say goodbye, Cole. She was trying to say she'd always be with you. His eyes filled, but he didn't look away. Thank you for helping me hear that. They stood in silence for a while, the kind of silence that didn't need filling. And when Cole finally left, Lily felt something settle in her chest. Not closure, but peace. A week later, the company hosted a private ceremony to honor the artisans who'd contributed to the Second Light collection. Lily stood on stage beside Henry Cole and the scholarship recipients, and for the first time in her life she felt seen not for what she could do, but for who she was. Cole stepped forward to close the ceremony. This company was built on a belief that beauty requires precision, but I've learned something over the past year. He looked directly at Lily. Precision without heart is just mechanics. It's the people who care, who see beyond the surface, that create something lasting. It's the heartwarming connections we build, the inspirational courage we witness in each other, that truly save us. The applause was thunderous, but what Lily would remember most was the way Cole walked over to her afterward, took her hand not too tightly, but not letting go either, and said, "I'm glad you didn't stay invisible." She smiled. "I'm glad you finally saw me. Some endings are just new beginnings, and some people are worth the wait." A year after Lily restored the ring, Sterling and Ray held its annual gala, a celebration of craftsmanship, legacy, and the artisans who carried both forward. Lily arrived in a simple dress, her mother's pendant visible at her throat. She wasn't nervous anymore. She belonged here. Cole found her by the display of her mother's original tools, now part of a permanent exhibit honoring traditional engraving masters. "She'd be proud," he said quietly. "I hope so." Lily touched the glass case gently, the polished surface reflecting both their faces. "I used to think I'd never be good enough to live up to her, but now I realize she didn't want me to be her. She just wanted me to keep going." Cole smiled. "And you did. You kept going even when no one was watching." "You were watching?" Lily said, her tone light but sincere. "I was." He hesitated, then added, "And I haven't stopped." The words hung between them, soft but unmistakable. Lily's breath caught, but she didn't look away. To Cole, "I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know. You changed everything for me. The way I see this company, the way I see myself, the way I—" He stopped, swallowed. "The way I let people in." Lily's chest ached in the best way. "You changed things for me, too." They stood there, surrounded by the hum of conversation and the glow of carefully crafted jewelry, and neither of them needed to say what came next. It was already understood. By the end of the night, the scholarship fund had grown to support 15 artisans. Henry had officially retired, but stayed on as a mentor, teaching the next generation what Lily's mother had once taught him. And Lily, who had spent so long believing she was invisible, now led workshops on traditional engraving techniques, her voice steady and sure. But the moment that mattered most came later, after the gala ended, when Cole and Lily stood alone in the now quiet workshop. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the restored ring. "I want you to have this." Lily's eyes widened. "Cole, I can't." "It's not what you think." He smiled. "I'm not giving it to you as a keepsake. I'm giving it to you as a reminder. You brought something back that I thought was lost forever. And I don't just mean the engraving." He paused. "You brought me back. You helped save not just a ring, but a future I'd stopped believing in." Lily's throat tightened. She took the ring carefully, feeling the weight of everything it represented: loss, love, healing, and the courage to keep carving beauty into broken things. The sensory memory of restoring it flooded back the warmth of the metal, the precision of each stroke the moment the letter A finally emerged clear and true. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole reached out gently, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "No, Lily. Thank you." And in that moment, surrounded by tools and metal and the legacy of hands that came before them, Lily understood something her mother had always known. True artistry isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up even when you're afraid and trusting that your hands and your heart know what to do. The ring was never just gold. It was a promise that love once engraved never truly fades. And perhaps that's the most inspirational truth of all, that even the shyest girl working quietly in the shadows can polish away the darkness and reveal the light that was always waiting underneath.